Hello, everybody. Welcome to beautiful Throwtown, Oklahoma. This is the beginning of a long and fantastic weekend of throwing. We're here thanks to Throws University, bringing it to you live. Also, thanks to Thrower X and Throws Pro, the main sponsors for this broadcast. So I'm Dan McQuaid of McThrows.com. I'm really happy to be here, bringing you some throws. The wind is whipping out there on the field. Shocking, I know, for Oklahoma. You can see that's a great view there. So this first competition is for left-handed throwers. Caleb, great guy that he is, realized that most competitions, given a choice, are set up, so that they can catch a right-handed wind, as most throwers are right-handed. But some persuading from, I think, primarily Reggie Yeagers, who is ironically not here, has convinced Caleb to set up a flight catering to left-handed throwers. And the way he's done that is they've got 5 rings out there to choose from. So they check the wind conditions, and today they're competing, for this flight anyway, from a ring that's going to get a great left-handed wind. As you can see, those flags flying there from the left foul line. So the left-handers are fired up. We've got Mitchell Weber, Bryce Ruland, Jacob Lemon, not left-hander Joe Brown, and Noah Cook. Looks like Jacob Lemon is going to lead us off here. Oh, no, sorry, he's still warming up. He was going to throw the invisible disc. So we got Jacob Lemon of Florida, Mitchell Weber of Missouri, Bryce Ruland, the freshman at Iowa, Noah Cook in his final year at Louisville. Noah threw for his coach Corey Martin at Indiana and recently transferred to Louisville. And we've got the famous Joe Brown, who is apparently pretending to be a left-hander. I haven't talked to Joe this morning, but I'm assuming that it's good practice to learn how to throw in any kind of wind, because you cannot, other than outside of Ramona, it's really hard to dictate the wind you're going to get. So I would imagine he's jumping into this flight to get some practice in that left-hander wind. So the gentlemen have taken their warm-up throws. They're getting ready to start the competition while we have a second here. Just wanted to give a shout out again to our sponsor, Throws Pro Insider. You can access their specials through the comment section for this YouTube broadcast. They do a fantastic job. Scott Capos, Joe Frontier of Throw Big, Throw Far podcast fame, Ryan Whiting of Throwing the Shot Put Far fame. Those guys provide instructions, through video. They post all kinds of content to subscribers. So really worth your trouble to take a look at that. Throws Pro Insider. Again, check the comments section on this broadcast. Temperature today is meant to be in the mid-70s. It's really nice. Beautiful sun. My wife and I just drove in from Chicago yesterday, where we rarely see this thing called the sun. So it's really nice. We're sheltered in a shed. There's a couple buildings on the property, one with a weight room and nice lounge. And we're sheltered from the wind in the shed, though, so all the equipment doesn't blow away. But we're on site and got some great camera people out there. We've also got somewhere Christoph Kipp, who was here last year. He's a biomechanical professor at Marquette University. And you may have seen the stuff he posted and published last year after the Throwstown World Invite, where he sets up something like 6 cameras, takes data from all those angles, measures the wind speed, and puts it all together and does his biomechanical magic with it to try to, see what the physics of great throws look like. Like he broke down Mikolas's world record throw last year. I'm not sure he's going to be set up for this flight. Actually, I have a feeling he's not, because for the later flights, there'll be men's and women's discus, but they're going to set up in a different ring where there's a right-handed wind. So he's probably getting set up over there. But He'll be ready throughout the weekend to produce some really interesting biomechanical analysis of these fine throws. Also, while we've got a minute, shout out to famous left-handers, Keanu Reeves, Lady Gaga, Oprah Winfrey, the Boston Strangler, astronaut Buzz Aldrin, also Ned Flanders and Mr. Burns of The Simpsons. Some prominent left-handers. So again in this flight, we got the 23-year-old Jacob Lemon of Florida, formerly of Virginia. We got Mitchell Weber of Missouri, who was the 2022 SEC Discus champ, who had a big breakthrough at the preliminaries in the Olympic trials last year. 63.23, a school record for Minnesota. And that record had been set in 1979 by Ben Plucknett, the monstrous bearded giant that you might remember from his later years when he threw 70 meters. So Ben threw 61.52 in 1979, and that program record stood until Mitchell went 63.23 at the Olympic trials last year. He ended up placing ninth in the final with 61.55, but a pretty exciting day. We're going to have Bryce Ruland. He's a freshman at Iowa, a true freshman. Had a fantastic season last year as a senior in high school. He got the gold medal at the 2024 World Under-20 Champs. Excuse me. Through the 1.75 implement, 62.59. I just talked to him a few minutes ago, and asked him what it was like trying to get used to the college implements. The high school disc is 1.6K. And he had some nice experience, obviously throwing the 1.75 at the U.S. Juniors and the World Juniors. But he said it's still a little tricky getting the 2K to fly correctly. He's thrown so far this year, where's he at? I want to say he's thrown 55 meters a couple times this year. Yeah, 55.75 is his best so far. And he said that the disc was pretty much going sideways. So he's excited about the chance to, just get some more experience, get used to flying that 2K, and it'll be a really interesting challenge to fly it today. They were talking about winds up to maybe 25 miles an hour, I believe, and it looks it. Visually, the way those flags are whipping, I would say the predictions were correct. We also have Noah Cook. Again, he's throwing for Louisville now. His best, all-time best, 58.70 in 2023 when he was at Indiana University. And Joe Brown, who has just snuck in this flight. I think Joe Brown just loves to throw, so he just probably looked around and saw that people were collecting to start a flight of discus and just said, okay, I'm in. So in case you're wondering why there's a right-hander, that's it. We'll get going soon. I can hear the music pumping, the wind howling. The warm-ups are done. We're all set. Next up today, actually, before I give out misinformation, let me check the official schedule here. But I know we've got men's and women's discus. I'm just not 100% sure of the order here. I'll get my act together and let you know. Also, oh wait, here we go. All right, so we're starting here. Here's Bryce Ruland in round one. There we go. Nice, easy, flat throw down that left foul line. We're having a little trouble getting the live results rolling here. So I'm going to have to catch up with you as far as the distances go. But again, this is the first session of the weekend, so we're just doing our best to get ready. Here is Noah Cook from Louisville. Another nice, easy throw. Next up is Jacob Lemon. Like I said, we're working on getting those live results rolling here. If you guys want to see the flight sheets, you can go to Throwtown Ramona on Instagram. Follow the link trees there. So they've got the flight sheets and the schedule laid out for you there. Looks like we might be having a little trouble out there with the laser measurement. I can only imagine with that wind blowing the way it is. So the order then after the left-handed discus will be with 3 sections of men's discus, 3 throws each, followed by top 8 to the final for 3 extra, and then the women's discus will finish with, looks like 2 sections of the women's discus. Again, 3 throws, 8 to the finals. Once again, there seems to be a little technical delay out there. Shocking, I know. Old guys like me tend to prefer the actual tape that you unspool, although in this wind that could be, I'll bet that would be quite a challenge. So we'll stick with the lasers and do our best. Here comes Mitchell Weber of Missouri. Again, he placed 9th at the Olympic trial final last year. He threw to a big PB 63.23 in qualification at the trials. Another nice, easy throw out into that wind. They're doing a nice job of flying it today. And here's Joe Brown. Probably the most popular thrower in Throwtown history. Last year, he basically moved in and did about 100 meets here. It's kind of interesting, you know, there's thought that meets here maybe aren't so good for your overall development because obviously when you get into a big competition, you don't get to pick the wind, right? There's not 5 rings where they're choosing and arranging for a great wind. But then, old Joe Brown, after PBing here in Ramona last June, 67.82, goes to the Olympic trials, takes third with 65.79. So he showed that sometimes those big throws just give you some confidence and show you what's possible and help you get rolling. Here's Bryce again. Any idea about live results? And here's Noah Cook stepping in. Noah is getting a master's in sports administration at Louisville as he finishes up his college eligibility. And Jacob Lemon entering the ring again. Again, these guys will all get 6 throws because it's a small flight, so there won't be a final. Still working on getting the live results going so we can give you accurate information about how far these gents are throwing. Mitchell Weber back in the ring. He was a 3-time state champion in the shot and disc in high school in Minnesota. Mitchell also was a state qualifier in the 4x200 and 4x100 relay, which you probably would not guess by seeing him now. But apparently he had quite the speed in those days. Joe Brown back in the ring. Joe, part of a really, really encouraging Olympic discus trials last year. As you probably know, if you're listening to this, I'm sure you're a fan of the sport. As you probably know, the U.S. has lagged behind a little bit in the discus, especially compared to the shot put on the world scene. And it hasn't taken big distances to make our world championship or Olympic teams often in the discus. And that's not a slam on anybody. It's just been a different situation. The discus has not developed the way the shot has. But that Olympic trials last year was smoking. Joe right in the middle of it. Here's Noah back into the ring. Noah's teammate Jaden Ulrich is going to be throwing today and also Saturday in the women's disc. Jaden has a 66-meter throw under her belt already this year, so that should be pretty interesting. The women's competition is going to be pretty fantastic. Jacob Lemon stepping in the ring again. Here's Mitchell Weber of Missouri stepping back in. Again, I apologize for the glitch here about being able to keep you updated with how far these throws are going. But again, we're working it out. Getting this broadcast set up was no easy task for these guys. And we're working through some things here this first round. So you can see from that longer view there what the topography of this area of Oklahoma looks like, and it is flat. So the wind, there's nothing to block the wind. It just gets moving. Whipping along the plains there, and turns out it's perfect environment to throw the discus in. Another nice looking throw by Jacob Lemon. Jacob posted a hammer personal best of 66.15 in 2021, but he set that aside. Also was a pretty good weight thrower, but he set those events aside. He's just going to continue with the discus this spring, and actually he's going to throw at the World University Games in July in Germany, and then probably hang up the throwing shoes. Mitchell Weber getting back in the ring here. Among the throwers that will be also competing later on today, Lita Van Dalen of Florida and the Netherlands. Laura Saga, the 2023 World Discus Champion. Had a rough year last year, but she's back, reset, ready to get started again. She threw, what did she throw at the Florida relays a week ago? 63 maybe, so nice, promising start. She'll be back in action this afternoon and again on Saturday. Here's Joe. Joe looking a little frustrated, but again, when they set you up in a ring with a very strong left-hander's win, I'm not sure there's a lot you can do about that. But good experience, good practice. So later on today with the ladies, we'll have Jaden Ulrich from Louisville. Her season's best so far, as I mentioned earlier, 66-14. Her coach, Corey Martin, says she's in fantastic shape. So she is quite capable of smashing one today and again on Saturday. Veronica Fraley will be here. It'll be her season opener. She threw 67-17 here last year in this competition at the World Invite. There's a nice representation of college athletes here besides Lita Von der Lallen. There's a group from the University of Minnesota, Antoinette Nabwe. Among them, dynamic young thrower, fine discus, shot put, hammer thrower, excellent indoor weight thrower. I mentioned Loggie's going to be here. Oh, and Melina Robert-Michon, the famous French thrower, 45 years old. She's been in, I want to say, 7 Olympics. Yeah, 7-time Olympian, 2 children. Got the silver medal in Rio. She'll be throwing here this weekend as well. So a lot of exciting competitors coming up. Noah Cook stepping back in the ring. Again, Noah's all-time best, 58-70. And here's Jacob Lemon again, stepping in the ring. Back to the top with the freshman Bryce Ruland of Iowa. Joe Brown stepping back in for another throw in the strongest left-hander wind he's probably ever experienced. Well, while I'm waiting for live results, I'll give you guys a little bit more of a preview of what's coming up later on today. So again, there's going to be 3 flights of men's disc. Some of the highlights you're going to see. Actually, in the first flight, it's kind of interesting. There's some Masters throwers competing. Don Milliken, the man behind this facility here, will be throwing. We've got Jake Stafford and Derek Smith of UCLA. So that will be about a 50-year age difference between those guys, I imagine. Texas Tanner from Air Force, so some of the college guys. And then in that middle flight, second flight of men's disc, we got Sam Weeks of Garage Strength, Michael Pinckney of UCLA, Legend Hayes of Garage Strength, Marius Kargas of Germany. Marius, part of a group of really, really fine young German discus throwers. Him, Mika Sosna, and Steven Richter, all the same age, and have all had a lot of success at the junior level. Last year, Mika was the only one who came. I think he was the only male German thrower that made the trip to Ramona last year, and he did it to try to get that World Championship qualifying standard. 67:20 last year, or 67:50, something crazy. Anyway, his PB was 65. So he comes to Ramona and bombs a 68.96. So he gets the standard. And then as the summer went on, you know, and he and the other German throwers were, and then they're friends. I mean this in a nice way, but they're jockeying for position, right? Only 3 people get to go to the Olympics from a certain country. So he, Marius, Steven Richter, Henrik Janssen, Clemens Prüfer, Daniel Jasinski, they're all jockeying for position to get on the Olympic team. And that throw really helped give Mika, an advantage. So he was selected for the European Championships in Rome, where he made the final. And then he was nominated for the team in Paris. So he was able to accumulate a ton of experience. And I think that's another argument for coming here and throwing a big throw. There's for sure truth to the fact that it can put you in an odd headspace if you launch that big PB in the wind, and then you go to compete inside a stadium or in a venue with lesser wind, and you can't equal it, right? I was talking to Marcus Gustafsson, who threw 70 meters for the first time a couple weeks ago, and he said he followed that up with a meet here, and he found himself pressing like crazy because he wasn't throwing 70 meters again, and that got in his head. So you got to be able to kind of take a step back when you make one of those big throws, those big jumps, and realize that the job is to go back. If your old PB was 65, like Mika, and you throw 68.96, your job is to go back and get consistent at 63, 64, 65 meters, meet after meet after meet, week after week after week, and you got to kind of forget about that PB. But that said, that huge PB got him experience at the European Championships and Olympic Championships, and if he stays healthy and makes it for the Olympics in LA, he's going to be able to look back on that experience, I think, as being really, really helpful. But anyway, the other Germans, saw what happened, and so they're here now too. So we've got, let me see, in that, as I was talking about that second flight, Marius Kargas is one of them. Also, Emmanuel Sousa from Portugal, fine young thrower, built a lot like a sprinter, so he's going to be quite the contrast to somebody like Matty Denny, who's a big unit, a filled-out dude. The final flight today, we got Steven Richter and other the Germans, Henrik Janssen, who had a really nice season last year, struggled in the Olympics. I remember I had the fortune of being at the Olympic men's prelims and qualification and finals. And Henrik went one and done in qualification, just smashed one. And that was pretty exciting because if you ask any of these veteran throwers, they'll tell you how difficult qualification rounds are, how difficult it is to relax and just find some rhythm. So Henrik last year in Paris gets in his first round of qualification, smashes an automatic qualifier, but then he really, really struggled. Nick Percy, former NCAA champ for Nebraska, will be in that third flight. Mika is back for an encore from last year. Connor Bell, the New Zealander, threw 68 meters here last year. He's back. Sam Mattis, who opened at 68 meters just a week ago. Clemens Proofer. Clemens actually did a great job in the Olympics last year. But you know what? I think when I was reminiscing about the Olympics there, I juxtaposed those two guys. It was Clemens who qualified in the first round at in Paris in the qualification, and then did a great job in that final round where there was kind of a nice wind, even though it was a giant stadium, seating 80,000 people. A nice right-hander's wind snuck in there that day, and Clemens, 67 meters, great job in the Olympic final. It was Henrik who struggled in qualification, and he did not advance at the Olympics last year. But we'll see both of them later on today. Marcus Gustafson, new to the 70-meter club, and also Matty Denny, also new to the 70-meter club. He threw 72.07 just a week ago here at Throwtown. So a lot of exciting men's discus throwers coming up later on in the day. For the ladies, we've got Kirsty Law from Great Britain in flight B, section B, so that'll be the first flight. Rachel Andrus, Jade Whitfield from Louisville, Sumaya Levante from UCLA. Those ladies will be competing in that first women's flight later on today. And in the second flight, we got Alex Freeman, who actually lives in my neck of the woods near Chicago. Jaden Ulrich, who I mentioned earlier, has thrown 66 meters this season already. Daisy Osako, who throws for Italy. Shoman Yekwer, Alita Van Dalen, who has thrown 65 meters. Erica Bissell from Grand Valley State, 66 meters already this year, 66-63, a shocking throw. So it'll be really interesting to see how she backs that up today. And Melina Robert-Michon and Laulaga Tausaga. And that's it for this flight. Again, I apologize for our difficulty getting synced up with the live results. We will have that resolved shortly, and we'll see you back here in just a bit for the beginning of the men's discus. 3 outstanding flights, 3 throws each, and then an 8-person final, followed by 2 really outstanding flights of women's discus. So come back and join us. We will have our act together, and we look forward to having you with us.